7 years old, a pacemaker, arthritis in both hands, and a hearing aid. I keep forgetting the charge. And somehow none of that was the reason I almost died last Thanksgiving. The reason I almost died was my daughter-in-law's cranberry sauce. But not the way you're thinking. Welcome back to Dad's Honest Revenge. Settle in, pour yourself something warm, and remember, the people in these stories had every opportunity to be decent. They picked the other thing. Drop a comment and make sure you subscribe. Trust me on this one. My name is Walter Briggs, retired electrician, Knoxville, Tennessee. 41 years of running wire through walls so other people's lights would turn on. Built my own house with my own hands in 1987. Every outlet, every junction box, every three-way switch. I know where every wire runs because I put them there. That matters later. My wife is Donna Briggs, 63. Retired school nurse. The kind of woman who keeps a first aid kit in her purse, her glove box, and taped under the kitchen sink. 38 years of marriage. She once set a kid's dislocated finger in the school cafeteria without flinching, and then finished her lunch. I married a woman made of granite wrapped in a cardigan. Best decision I ever made. Our son is Mitchell Briggs, 34. Works in commercial real estate, or says he does. Got his mother's calm and my stubbornness, which would have been fine if he hadn't also developed a taste for shortcuts I didn't teach him. 2 years ago, he married a woman named Valerie Stokes. Elegant, charming, master's degree in finance from UT Knoxville. She brought homemade pie to every Sunday dinner and remembered Donna's birthday without being reminded. We thought we'd won the daughter-in-law lottery. Turns out the lottery was rigged. We also have a daughter, Claire Briggs, 29, veterinarian, lives in Chattanooga with 2 rescue dogs and a personality that doesn't tolerate nonsense. Claire matters. Remember Claire. The Briggs family owns a property, 39 acres on Bledsoe Creek Road in Sumner County, about 40 minutes northeast of Nashville. My grandfather bought it in 1962 from a man named Dale Suttles for $3,000. Pasture land, a hay barn, a spring-fed pond, dense hardwood along the eastern ridge. Grandpa ran cattle for a while, gave up, let it sit. My father inherited it, did nothing with it. I inherited it, did slightly less than nothing with it. Donna and I talked about building a cabin out there once, never did. The land just existed, quiet, pretty, and apparently worth a fortune we didn't know about. 7 months before Thanksgiving, a certified letter arrived from something called Ridgewater Development Group, Nashville office, regarding significant subsurface mineral resources identified on the Bledsoe Creek Road parcel. I read it twice, assumed it was a scam, and put it in the junk drawer. Donna fished it out 2 days later and read it with her reading glasses and her school nurse face. The one that means somebody's about to get a temperature check, whether they want one or not. Walter, she said, this isn't junk mail. It's a land grab pitch, Don. They all sound official. She put it in her filing cabinet. The woman files everything. Receipts from 2004. Warranty cards for appliances we don't own anymore. Our marriage license in a plastic sleeve. I used to tease her about it. I don't anymore. Thanksgiving Day, November 27th. Our house on Callaway Lane, the one I built. Donna had been cooking since Wednesday. Turkey, cornbread dressing, her mother's sweet potato casserole, green beans from a church recipe she'll never share, and 3 pies because Donna doesn't believe in moderation when it comes to pastry. Mitchell and Valerie arrived at 11. Claire drove up from Chattanooga at noon. Mitchell was carrying a bottle of wine and wearing that smile I used to trust completely. Valerie had her cranberry sauce in a white ceramic dish. Homemade, she said. New recipe. She set it on the counter next to Donna's dressing and kissed my cheek. Happy Thanksgiving, Dad. I should tell you something about Valerie's cranberry sauce. She started bringing it 8 months ago, right around the time that letter arrived. Donna ate it at Easter dinner and felt sick for 2 days. She ate it at Mitchell's birthday cookout in July and spent the night with stomach cramps so bad I almost drove her to the ER. She ate it at a Sunday dinner in September and had what the urgent care doctor called an unexplained cardiac episode. Shortness of breath, elevated heart rate, dizziness. I blamed the pacemaker. I blamed her blood pressure medication. I blamed stress and age and the Tennessee heat. I blamed everything except the obvious, because the obvious was unthinkable. Donna didn't blame anything. Donna watched. Because that's what Donna does. She watches, she files, And when she's ready, she acts with the quiet efficiency of a woman who spent 30 years keeping kindergartners from bleeding to death on the playground. But I didn't know any of that yet. On Thanksgiving morning, I was just a man who loved his family, trusted his daughter-in-law's cooking, and had absolutely no idea that his wife had been running a one-woman toxicology investigation out of our guest bedroom for 4 months. Dinner was perfect. Or looked it. The 5 of us around the oak table I built in 1993. Claire telling a story about a 3-legged dog she'd saved. Mitchell laughing too loud. Valerie touching Mitchell's arm with a precision I now recognize as choreography. Donna quiet. Watching. Valerie served the cranberry sauce herself, spooned it onto everyone's plate. I noticed, only because Donna told me later, that Valerie serves Donna's plate last. And her hand lingered over it half a second longer than the others. Half a second. That's nothing. That's everything. The first plates were nearly clean when Donna stood up calmly and said, "I need everyone to stop eating the cranberry sauce." The table went quiet. Not surprised quiet. Confused quiet. Like when the power goes out and you sit in the dark for a second before your brain catches up. "Donna, honey, what?" She held up her hand. "Mitchell," she said, "don't eat another bite. Claire, push your plate forward. Walter, you too." Her voice. That nurse voice. The one that doesn't negotiate. The one she used on hysterical parents and uncooperative 8-year-olds and, once, a school board member who tried to cut the health budget. Nobody argues with that voice. Valerie laughed. "Donna, it's just cranberries." And Donna opened the kitchen drawer, the one next to the stove, and pulled out a manila folder. Not thin. Not a couple of pages. The kind of folder that says someone has been building something for months. "I tested the leftovers from September," she said, "and July. I kept samples in labeled containers in the deep freeze in the garage." She looked at Valerie. "Ethylene glycol. Small amounts, but consistent. Enough to cause cumulative organ damage over several months." Silence. The kind of silence that has weight. Claire's fork hit her plate. Mitchell's face lost 2 shades of color. Valerie's expression did something I will never forget. It rearranged, like watching someone take off a mask they'd been wearing so long and it started to feel like skin. Underneath was nothing I recognized. Ethylene glycol. Antifreeze. Tasteless when mixed with something sweet. I learned this at 2 in the morning reading Donna's notes while she slept. My wife, the school nurse, had identified a slow poisoning, documented it with dated samples in a symptom journal, and confirmed it through a lab in Nashville that does private toxicology screening for $65 a panel. She paid cash. She told no one. Not me. Not Claire. Not the police. Not yet. "Why not?" I asked her later, furious and terrified and grateful all at once. "Because I didn't know how deep Mitchell was in," she said. "And I needed to know before I did anything that would give them time to cover it up." That sentence broke something in me and rebuilt something else. Back at the table, Donna set the folder down. Inside, 4 lab reports. A symptom timeline cross-reference with every meal Valerie had served over 8 months. Photographs of the cranberry sauce containers with dates written in Donna's neat block handwriting. And one more thing, a printed screenshot from Mitchell's email. She'd seen it on his laptop 6 weeks ago when he left it open on our kitchen counter. A message from someone named Greg Pollard at Ridgewater Development Group. The subject line was simple. Timeline update. Bledsoe property. The email laid it out. Ridgewater had identified a natural gas deposit under our 39 acres. Conservative estimate, $12 to $18 million in extraction rights. They needed the land. They'd approached us legitimately with that letter. We'd ignored it, so they went to Plan B. Plan B was Mitchell. Greg Pollard had offered Mitchell a finder's fee, $750,000, to facilitate a voluntary transfer of the Bledsoe Creek property. Mitchell's job was simple. Get us to sign. And if we wouldn't sign, get us out of the way. Valerie was Pollard's suggestion, not a real wife. Valerie was Pollard's suggestion, not a real wife, a real con artist. Marriage license filed in Davidson County, perfectly legal, strategically timed. She'd done this before for Pollard's group. Identified elderly property owners, embedded through marriage or caretaking, and facilitated transfers through manipulation, legal pressure, or when those failed, medical emergency. Donna looked at Mitchell across the Thanksgiving table, cranberry sauce going cold, and said the thing that landed harder than any accusation I could have invented. "I knew at Easter," she said. "I've been watching you lie to me for 7 months. And the hardest part wasn't the poison. It was Sunday dinners, sitting across from my own son, passing the bread, and knowing." Mitchell started to cry. Not the kind of crying that earns sympathy. The kind that tells you someone has been carrying a weight and just realized it's about to crush them. "Mom, I didn't know about the don't." Donna's voice didn't rise. It dropped. Which was worse? Don't tell me you didn't know. You knew about the land. You knew about the plant. You brought her into this house. Whatever she did with the cranberry sauce, you built the road she drove in on. Claire stood up. Her chair scraped the floor. She looked at Mitchell with an expression I hope I never see directed at me. She pulled out her phone. "I'm calling the sheriff." And she did. Right there. Sumner County Sheriff's Office, dispatch, Thanksgiving Day. My daughter, who resets broken bones and frightened animals for a living, reported an attempted poisoning with the same steady voice she probably uses to calm a terrier before surgery. Valerie stood up. "I want a lawyer." "You're going to need several," Donna said. Deputy Tom Kendrick arrived in 19 minutes. I know, because I counted. Sat in my living room, the one I wired myself, and listened to my wife present her evidence with the organized calm of someone giving a school board presentation. Lab reports, symptom journal, email screenshots, dated photographs. The deputy stopped writing twice to look at Donna with an expression I can only describe as professional astonishment. "Ma'am," he said, "you did all of this yourself?" "I'm a school nurse," Donna said, as if that explained everything. It did. Valerie, real name Janine Decker, 31, 2 prior fraud convictions in Georgia and Alabama, 1 dismissed assault charge, was arrested that evening. She didn't say another word after asking for a lawyer. Professional to the end, Greg Pollard was arrested the following Monday at his Nashville office. Conspiracy to commit fraud, conspiracy to commit aggravated assault, and when the DA's office connected Janine Decker to 2 similar operations in other states, one of which ended with an 81-year-old woman dying of kidney failure. Additional charges I won't list here because they make my chest tight. The natural gas deposit was real. Conservative side. $14 million. Our attorney, Bill Fenton, 71, semi-retired, the kind of lawyer who wears suspenders without irony, spent 3 months unwinding Pollard's corporate structure. Bridgewater Development Group, connected to 2 shell LLCs, connected to a holding company in Delaware, connected to investment partners in Charlotte who had been acquiring rural mineral rights across Tennessee and western North Carolina for 6 years, using exactly this playbook. Find the land, find the weakness, exploit the family. Bill found the weakness in their structure the way I'd find a fault in someone's wiring. You trace the circuit. You find the junction where the load is wrong. You open the box and look at what's actually connected. What was actually connected was ugly. 7 families in 4 states. Elderly owners, everyone, manipulated, defrauded, and in 2 cases, physically harmed. Our case broke it open because Donna kept her freezer samples and her symptom journal and her $65 lab reports. 30 years of filing everything, warranty cards and receipts and toxicology panels, all in the same cabinet. The property settlement took 5 months. Mineral rights, surface rights, damages, and a legal mechanism. Bill was particularly proud of that I didn't fully understand, but that resulted in a number with 7 figures. Donna cried when he told us. I didn't cry. I sat on the back porch looking at the tree line and thought about my grandfather buying 39 acres of nothing in 1962 because he thought the creek was pretty. He was right. It was pretty. It was also sitting on top of $14 million worth of natural gas, which is the kind of thing that turns families into targets. Now, Mitchell. This is the part that cost me sleep. The part I rewrite in my head at 3 a.m, looking for a version where my son didn't do what he did. Mitchell cooperated fully. Testified against Pollard. Provided emails, text messages, account records showing the $750,000 had been deposited into an account Valerie, Janine, controlled, not his. He'd been promised the money but never received it. Conned by his own co-conspirator. There's a word for that kind of irony, but I don't know it, and I'm not sure I want to. The DA offered Mitchell a plea. Conspiracy to commit fraud, reduced to facilitation. 2 years probation, 400 hours of community service, mandatory counseling. No prison. Claire wanted prison. She told me so in my truck, parked at the Hardee's on Kingston Pike, both of us eating biscuits we didn't taste. He tried to kill Mom, Dad. Slowly. Over months. He sat at that table and watched. He didn't know about the poison, Claire. He knew about the rest. He brought her in. He knew what Pollard wanted. She was ripe. She was also 29 and still believed that justice was simple. I used to believe that too. Before I spent 41 years watching the wrong wire in the wrong junction burn down the right house. Here's what I told the judge at Mitchell's sentencing, not as a victim impact statement, just as a father. Which is harder? Your Honor, my son didn't push us off a cliff. He opened the door and let someone else walk in with a plan to do it slowly. I don't know if that's better or worse. I know he's my son. I know he was greedy and weak and manipulated by people who are very good at finding greedy, weak people. I know that doesn't make him innocent. I also know that if I write him off completely, I lose the only version of my family that might still be worth something. I'm not asking for mercy. I'm asking for the chance to find out whether structural damage can be repaired or whether the whole thing needs to come down. The judge gave him the plea deal. 2 years probation. Community service at a legal aid clinic, which I thought was appropriate in a way the judge probably didn't intend. Mandatory counseling. Mitchell moved to a studio apartment in East Knoxville. He goes to counseling. Actually goes, I checked, because trust is something he has to earn back, one receipt at a time. He calls on Sundays. Sometimes I answer on the first ring. Sometimes I answer on the first ring. Sometimes I let it go to 3 or 4. Donna answers every time. Immediately. Without hesitation. She is a better person than I am. I've always known that. I just didn't know the full scope of it until I watched her sit across from the woman who'd been poisoning her, Thanksgiving turkey going cold, and lay out a case with the composure of someone who'd already decided that the truth was worth whatever it cost. Claire doesn't answer Mitchell's calls yet. She will, or she won't. That's between them. I've learned that family repair doesn't follow a blueprint. You can't wire it in advance. You just make sure the connections are sound. Label everything clearly, and hope the load doesn't exceed the capacity. If you've been listening for a while, I want to say something honestly. Hitting that like button and subscribing. It sounds small, but it's what keeps these stories coming. 97% of people who watch never do it. Be the 3%, it makes a real difference. Thank you. Janine Decker pled guilty in March, 4 years. She testified against Pollard for the reduction. On the stand, she described the cranberry sauce recipe with clinical detachment. Orange juice, brown sugar, fresh cranberries, and a tablespoon of antifreeze mixed in while the sauce was still warm. The sweetness masked the taste. She learned the ratio from a true crime forum, adapted it for repeated low-dose administration. Her words, not mine. Donna sat beside me in the courtroom and didn't flinch. I flinched. I'm not ashamed of that. Pollard went to trial in June. I testified for 3 hours. Wore the same blue blazer I wore to Claire's veterinary school graduation, because it's the only one that still buttons, and because I wanted to look exactly like what I am, a 67-year-old retired electrician from Knoxville who wired his own house, married a school nurse, and isn't particularly impressed by men in expensive suits who think rural families are easy marks. The jury took 8 hours, guilty on all counts, conspiracy, fraud. 2 counts of aggravated assault related to our case and another in North Carolina, and the vehicular charges connected to a Georgia case I won't discuss because there's a family there that deserves privacy more than I deserve. A dramatic ending. I watched Pollard's face when the foreman read the verdict. He looked confused. Genuinely confused. Like a man who'd built a machine and couldn't understand why the parts were flying apart. I could have told him. I've seen it 100 times in bad wiring jobs. You overload the circuit. You skip the junction box. You use the wrong gauge wire because it's cheaper and faster and nobody's going to check. And it holds for a while. It always holds for a while. Then the breaker trips, or the insulation melts, or the whole panel arcs and everything goes dark. You didn't account for the connections, Greg. You looked at 2 old people in a house in Knoxville and saw an easy job. Quick money, slow poison, clean transfer. You didn't see the school nurse with a deep freezer and a filing cabinet. You didn't see the daughter who doesn't tolerate nonsense. You didn't see the $65 lab test that blew your entire operation across 4 states. You didn't see the wiring in the lulls. Donna and I drive out to the Bledsoe Creek property every Saturday morning now. Not every Saturday. Most. We take coffee in a thermos, the kind with the dented cap that doesn't seal right, but I refuse to replace. We park by the hay barn, the one my grandfather built, leaning now but still standing, which seems about right. And we walk the fence line along the eastern ridge where the hardwoods go gold in October and bare in December and green again in April, like nothing ever happened. The spring-fed pond is still there. The creek still runs. Somewhere underneath, $14 million worth of natural gas sits in the dark, doing nothing, bothering nobody. We haven't decided what to do with it yet. We might never. Donna says the land has been patient this long and can be patient a little longer. She says it the same way she said everything during those 7 months. Quiet. Certain. Filed away for when the time is right. I stand at the fence line, coffee in one hand, Donna's hand in the other, arthritis and all, and I think about the thing that bothers Pollard in his cell and Janine in hers, and Mitchell in his studio apartment on Sunday nights when the phone rings and he waits to see if I'll answer. It's not the verdict. It's not the settlement. It's not even the land. It's that the house still stands. The one I built. Every outlet, every junction box, every wire and every wall exactly where I put it in 1987. The lights come on when you flip the switch. The furnace kicks in when the temperature drops. The deep freezer in the garage hums along at 4 degrees, keeping everything preserved exactly the way Donna pecked it, labeled and dated and ready. That's the only revenge that holds. Not the explosion, not the dramatic collapse. It's the quiet certainty that what you built was built right. That the people who tried to take it apart didn't understand what they were touching. That the foundation was always stronger than the fraud. And that a school nurse with a filing cabinet is more dangerous than any con artist with a business card. If this story meant something to you, join this community by hitting that like button and subscribing. We put out real, raw, family-centered stories every week. And as always, thank you for being here. It matters more than you know.